Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Chris, your NFL writer here at OccupyFantasy.com, here with some NFL DFS picks and tips for the Week 2 slates on FanDuel and DraftKings. First, look at the running back position, some of the things we've been considering for running backs here in Week 2 matchups. We're going to be dropping position previews every single week for the upcoming NFL slate on Sundays. So if you like that, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel below to get notified when a new position preview video hits each and every single week. If you like this video, we would appreciate it if you give a thumbs up on the video. It lets us know that you enjoyed the content that we gave you here today. If you have any questions for me, for the other members of our staff, make sure that you drop them in the comment section in the video below, or join our Discord where you can have conversations with the staff and other members of OccupyFantasy.com throughout the week, about different things that you want to learn more about. Usage data for running backs is in after 1 week of NFL action, and I would say that there are probably some things that we learned about backfields, some that we expected, and other things that we did not. I don't think we expected Mark Ingram, for example, to be, the lead running back out of the 19 running backs the Houston Texans signed this offseason. And I think everybody was a little shocked by Eli Mitchell being in over Trey Sermon for the RB2 situation at that time for the San Francisco 49ers. So, these are things that we learned in week 1, and we're going to learn some more things as we go through the rest of the NFL season. The running back position begins and it certainly doesn't end, but the discussion begins each and every week with Christian McCaffrey. He plays 3 games last year. He was hurt for most of the season, and even in the games that we saw last year, still dominated opportunities for the Carolina Panthers with this coaching staff. And right back to the well with him here in week 1. He had 21 carries, 9 targets. That's an absurd, almost 46 weighted opportunities to touch the football. You're not familiar with a weighted opportunity. A target is virtually 3 times more valuable than a carry at the running back position, for fantasy football purposes. So CMC remains the gold standard here for a fantasy football running back. Fortunately, you are going to pay for it. He's here 9,900 here on DraftKings, 10,000 over on the FanDuel side of things here in week 2. But can't say it's not going to be worth it every single week because he just gets the volume, and volume is the name of the game at this position. No one's ever going to tell you that it's a bad idea to roster Christian McCaffrey in NFL DFS. So let's just start there and then move on with the rest of our content here for week 2. I'm really intrigued by Nick Chubb here in week 2 against the Houston Texans. Cleveland is, they're right up there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're like 12.5 point favorites in this game. Odds makers don't necessarily care. The Texans look pretty good against the Jaguars, and the Browns lost their game to the Chiefs. They kind of still think Cleveland is the better team here, and it's hard to disagree based off of what we've kind of seen both teams do personnel-wise, and not necessarily overreacting to their performance in either direction for either squad through 1 week of action. Nick Chubb is still kind of RB1A to Kareem Hunt's RB1B, and in a game where we expect the Browns to be playing ahead, if they are going to win this game by 2 touchdowns like the odds makers expect, that is a Nick Chubb football game. Something else that is going very, very well for him early in the season. It was expected. Cleveland does have excellent run blocking. I know it's just 1 game, but we look at some of these advanced offensive line metrics that at least one source, ESPN, has publicly available. Rush block win rate for the team. Here in week 2, I have it kind of highlighted here for you already. The Cleveland Browns were the 2nd best run blocking offensive line in football against Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. So hard to imagine that's not going to continue here in week 2 against what is likely an inferior opponent. Chubb had 15 rushes, 2 touchdowns last week in a game that didn't necessarily go his way in the second half because that's when the Chiefs made their comeback. Kind of feel like it's going to be 4 quarters of feeding Nick Chubb in Kevin Stefanski's offense here. Very run-oriented offense. Should be a very, very nice day for him against the Houston Texans. I think he's one of the better running back plays on the slate for that reason. A little bit more expensive, $8,400 on the FanDuel side of things here in week 2. I'm going to go down the salary table here a little bit more. Talk about Chris Carson with the Seattle Seahawks. Just 6,100 here on DraftKings, 6,700 over on the FanDuel side of things. As you can see, he had 16 carries in week 1, 3 targets in the passing game. That's good for about 25 weighted opportunities. We like that, especially at his price here. Rashad Penny is not going to play for the Seattle Seahawks in week 2. He's dinged up again. Well, that could mean that guys like DJ Dallas or Alex Collins step into that RB2 role and have a little bit more involvement, as a change of pace back. The other thing that's likely is Chris Carson just sort of absorbs the majority of what Rashad Penny vacated, and he has even stronger of a role here in week 2 against against Tennessee, I should say. I'm sorry. So the Seattle Seahawks running back here, Chris Carson, is an extremely strong option. Didn't necessarily show up in the box score in week 1, just 13.7 fantasy points, but he'll have a chance to do a lot more than that here against the Titans in a game that the Seattle Seahawks are favored in, and at least through 1 week, Seattle's matchup here, with the Titans rush defense did not perform very well against the Arizona Cardinals. Nothing about the Tennessee Titans performed very well against the Arizona Cardinals, though, so that is certainly worth keeping in mind. I think everybody kind of went through this up and down process with, the Rams backfield where it was Cam Akers' backfield, and we all wanted Cam Akers. He was drafted very high all summer, and then he went down, with an Achilles injury, and we all thought it was Darrell Henderson time. And, if you're a best ball player, season-long player, we saw Darrell Henderson's ADP rise nearly like 100 draft picks over the summer for that reason. They go out and they trade for New England's Sony Michel, and now we're concerned about what's going to happen with Darrell Henderson. Well, at least here early in the year, Sony Michel was not a factor. Played, I believe it was 3 total offensive snaps in the game on Sunday Night Football against the Bears, had 1 carry in that game. Another design carry went to wide receiver Robert Woods on like a gadgety type play where he lined up as a traditional running back. Every other running back touch in the game went to Darrell Henderson Jr. So we have to like that. Certainly have to like that at his price here, just $5,700 on DraftKings, just $6,400 on FanDuel. He's the one facing Indianapolis and is in a great spot here. Mentioned this in our quarterback video. All of the advanced statistics really, really loved the Los Angeles Rams as a whole, as an offense in week 1. So we kind of expect that to continue here in week 2. If they're ahead, if they're controlling this game, it's going to be wheels up for Darrell Henderson Jr. here in week 2. Very, very good run blocking here for the Rams as well here in week 2, I believe, for him to benefit from. Yeah, they were just 8th, by that team run block win rate. So, definitely in the upper third of the NFL here, and we like to see that for a running back. Another kind of option we are looking at, I talked about the San Francisco backfield off the top. Eli Mitchell was priced right here at $5,000. Handled basically all of the traditional running back touches after Raheem Mostert went down for an injury that is apparently, is knocking him out for the rest of the regular season. So, Eli Mitchell was the most popular waiver claim in traditional season-long leagues here in week 2 for people who really needed a running back. For that reason, 19 carries, 104 yards, 1 touchdown. This is a run-oriented offense from Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. Now, the one risk here with Eli Mitchell, a lot of the team beat reporters were telling us that for week 1, the reason that Eli Mitchell and JaMychal Hasty were the only active running backs behind Raheem Mostert was because they brought some value on special teams to the table for the 49ers. They didn't anticipate a Mostert injury, right? But when that happened, those are the 2 guys they had to rely on. So it's at least possible that we are overreacting to that a little bit. And while 3rd round rookie Trey Sermon was inactive for week 1, and while we can't sit here and forecast and tell you that he's going to suddenly get the work here in week 2, we can tell you that since he does have value as a tailback and not on special teams, it's more probable that he's now active without Raheem Mostert available, and therefore it's also more probable that he gets some touches in week 2 maybe, but especially throughout the rest of the regular season. We've seen San Francisco do this over the last couple of years. They will use different players at this position fairly frequently over the course of an entire NFL season. So while we do like Eli Mitchell again this week because it's really the only actionable thing we have to act on, understand that it's at least possible that Trey Sermon is not dead in the water yet. And of course, we can't forget about JaMychal Hasty, who has already been active for this team on a game day so far. So we do like Eli Mitchell, like the fact that they are favored here against the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2. It's a little bit of a more difficult spot in theory than the Lions were, but it's still a nice time to consider rostering a running back from the 49ers, especially in high-risk contests because of the uncertainty at the position there with the Niners and how they want to use their personnel. So I think it was a little bit more on the 49ers than I planned on giving you, but I think it was good insight for preparing for week 2. I'm not going to let you out of here without talking about probably the most obvious spot on the board, especially with some of the other news that we are getting. Nobody else at the running back position saw the field for the Steelers against the Buffalo Bills in week 1. Rookie Najee Harris is the guy in this backfield. The touch volume wasn't great. It was not a great, I guess, like television game to watch or fantasy football game on both sides between the Bills and the Steelers. But Najee got absolutely every single running back touch for the Steelers. Now they're favored here in week 2 against the Las Vegas Raiders. And the kicker here is that 2 key defensive line skill players are now out. Definitely out for week 2, one out for the season for the Raiders. Gerald McCoy at defensive tackle will be out for the rest of the season. And Yannick Ngakoue is trending towards not playing here in week 2. I believe has even been confirmed as not playing in week 2 for the Raiders. So, the run blocking was not great for the Steelers. That was something that we did expect. They had massive personnel turnover on their offensive line, but now he's got a much better matchup here against the Raiders defense than he had in week 1 against the Bills defense. So it's definitely a good spot to consider Najee Harris. He's gonna, at the usage that he's getting, he's first round draft pick, so he's got much higher draft capital than this other player. But this is already looking very similar to James Robinson with the Jaguars in the 2020 season, where there's just one guy that gets all of the running back opportunity, and so therefore he is the guy that we want every single week from the Steelers at the position. So hard not to consider Najee at just 6,300, 6,100 on FanDuel for that reason. Not going to walk out of here or end this video without talking about the typical guys. Yeah, Dalvin Cook is still the guy in Minnesota. The efficiency was not there against the Bengals in week 1. Going to get a lot of touches. Not at the high end of our priority list here at Occupy so far anyway in our early look at week 2. But yeah, he's definitely going to be somebody that is usable. Alvin Kamara, with his role where he's going to get a ton of targets for the Saints. Again, talked about this in our quarterback video with Jameis Winston. These Saints were left with a lot of short fields. He didn't necessarily have to do much in the passing game in week 1, yet he still saw 4 targets in that type of game script. I have a feeling he will see even more in games that they don't win, 38-3, right? So Kamara is still going to be a great play every single week. This player is still not expensive enough. Chase Edmonds, 4,900 here on DraftKings. Super involved in the passing game. We get a pace-up spot against Dalvin Cook's Minnesota Vikings. Chase Edmonds becomes a very interesting tournament play. Has the most value, I think, here. He is the lead running back. He played the most for them in week 1, and he has the most value between the 20s for them. Still some concern inside the red zone, where James Conner mixes in, where Kyler Murray mixes in with his legs. But we still like Chase Edmonds a lot, especially in tournament formats here in week 2. That's going to do it for this rundown, folks, here of the running backs on the Week 2 NFL slates. For more information, keep an eye out for our daily plug, which will hit OccupyFantasy.com by Friday evening. Again, that's the daily plug at OccupyFantasy.com. That's where we break down all of our favorite plays at every single position, that are expensive and value plays for the upcoming NFL slate on Sunday. Plug will also include some contest recommendations for you to play based off of your bankroll tier, game stack ideas, our favorite games that we're looking at to play in our lineups in tournaments, specifically on FanDuel, DraftKings, and even Yahoo, which we're talking a little bit more this year with their DFS product, which has gotten better and better over the years. General low and high risk roster construction tips will be in there, as well as taking those and tailoring them to the slate based off of the information we have on the players that we like for you. So obviously that is a good thing for you to utilize and look at as well. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. We would really appreciate that. It would let us know that you enjoy this type of content and that we should keep making it. You'll get an alert when all of our uploads hit the channel. And you'll also get an alert when we schedule any live shows that are coming up throughout the week. These position preview videos are going to hit in the middle of every single week throughout the rest of the NFL season. So I hope you continue watching these. And obviously we have the showdown preview videos that Brian Jester has been producing and the $1 Million Mission where he goes through his 150 max strategies for FanDuel and DraftKings, which is every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. Lots of things going on for you here at the channel for you to check out, and we certainly appreciate that. If you have any questions, if there's a running back that we did not cover that you'd like to know more about, drop a comment below. You can also join our Discord where you can talk about every slate with the other Occupy Fantasy members and our staff members and pick our brains a little bit more intimately that way. So again, here for Occupy, I'm Chris. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll talk to you soon.